for you. Attorney General Matt Gaetz.
That's
Ladies
7
and gentlemen,
words, David.
we are
Learn
once
to
again
count.
becoming a laughingstock. We were a laughingstock globally under Scrumps, and Trump isn't even president yet, and we are already going in that direction. Donald Trump has selected beleaguered former Congressman Matt Gaetz. Now, you might be saying, former Congressman, what do you mean? He resigned yesterday. It relates to an ethics investigation. We will get to that. If you thought random Fox News host for Secretary of Defense was bad, well, Trump has now nominated a guy investigated for underage prostitution to be his attorney general. This is the scariest pick so far, and he's giving Tulsi access to intelligence. So we'll get back to that in a moment. Now, here is Matt Gaetz saying when he spoke at CPAC that we've got to get rid of the FBI,
Damn
the
straight.
CDC,
Yes,
the
sir.
ATF,
Absolutely.
and the DOJ.
No
and he
problem.
is theoretically, if he can pass confirmation hearings, going to be running the DOJ, the department he thinks should not even exist.
Government back on our side, or we defund and get rid of, abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF, DOJ, every last one of them, if they do not come to heel.
Now, there is a chicken egg situation here that
David, just like David Rubin said a few nights ago when you appeared on Piers Morgan, he called you a smug little prick. I'd like to add to that. You are a smug little mousy prick. And the way you played your word semantics there, saying that Matt Gaetz wants to be appointed to a department that he wants to get rid of. He wants to get rid of the weaponization, David the Pakman. He wants to get rid of the deep state involvement that has just like a cancer ensnared its cancerous tentacles into departments of the United States of America, the government departments that should never, ever, ever be weaponized or politicized. But unfortunately, the Obama administration did it. The Biden administration certainly did it. And I got to tell you, David, you know, you're not really on firm ground here. You really aren't. Because what we're trying to do, what Trump is trying to do, is he's tried to do previously, but was stopped every single damn time that he tried to clean up the, I guess, for lack of a better word, just the swampiness, the cesspool that has ensnarled Washington, D.C. like a cancer. And Trump is now going to use these picks, like for the defense secretary, like for attorney general, like for the Department of National Intelligence, Secretary of State. These are going to be his scalpels. And he's going to use those scalpels so they can cut through the cancerous tentacles that have basically enveloped Washington, D.C., and cut out the cancer of the deep state, cut out the cancer of the weaponization, cut out the cancer of the politicization of utilizing these government departments to go after conservatives, to go after Republicans, to go after anybody that has a dissenting view from the government. And the people have given Trump the mandate to go ahead and do this. So that's where I leave it at. But let's hear what more David the Pakman has in store about his thing for Matt Gaetz.
we're still trying to figure out, As some of you know, there was an ethics investigation going on into Matt Gaetz because of these allegations of underage sex trafficking and horrible, horrible stuff that one of his buddies actually pled guilty to. Within minutes of Matt Gaetz' nomination, he resigned his seat in Congress. The ethics investigation was scheduled to come out in just a few days. Because the House of Representatives can only investigate sitting members of the body, you hit the body with an investigation, the ethics investigation into Matt Gaetz evaporates. Now, we can hope that it will leak or be published, but strictly speaking, it's not supposed to. So, what was the order of operations here? Was part of the reason that Trump selected Gaetz, a guy who has no business in the world being Attorney General? Did Trump select?
Really? You know that, David the Pakman? You know that for a fact, that he had no business? You really think so? Law degrees, been on various committees. I mean, I'd just like to ask you, David the Pakman, how do you come up with this thesis that he's not able, that he doesn't have the bona fides to be Attorney General? Jealous much, maybe?
Him in order to save him from the ethics investigation? Did it come opportunistically that while Gaetz could certainly wait? I mean, there are some who say this guy won't get confirmed, so he should have kept his seat in Congress before resigning so quickly. Was it opportunistic where he said, this is my get out of jail free card, now I will immediately resign in order to prevent the ethics report from coming out? We just don't know.
Oh, we do. So what David the Pakman is trying to tell you, that Matt Gaetz is such an idiot that if this Attorney General nomination hadn't come, he would have resigned his seat anyways because of the bullshit ethics investigation that's supposedly been after him for years from the left. As I said before, the weaponization, the politicization of government, in this case, going after a government federal official to begin with. So Matt Gaetz has got the firepower to fight, obviously, against that, and has against these bullshit claims and alleged whatever the allegations are in terms of this underage crap that's just been festering, and has just, been, for lack of a better word, the lies. I mean, that's purely what this is, folks. They have taken lies against Matt Gaetz and have tried to use that to force him, to blackmail him, to stop him from doing the things that he's done for the American people. And so I would just like to ask David the Pakman that does he really think that this was Matt Gaetz's get out of jail card? That so now he says, oh, you know what? Yeah, sure, I'll take that nomination. And according to David the Pakman, he's not going to get the nomination. So he decides to give up his seat in Congress. I mean, he couldn't have just given up his seat altogether and just said, I'm just going to leave and enter the private sector? Because, if Matt Gaetz decided to enter the private sector, he would be making millions and millions of dollars there. He's not going to be making millions and millions of dollars as the Attorney General. Is he, David the Pakman?
What we can hope for right now is that his confirmation hearings are absolutely nuts, that the liaisons with underage women come out, and there's sort of there's two views on this. One view is he wasn't even nominated to be confirmed. The idea is like he's sort of a Harriet Miers type nominee, like what George W. Bush did, where Harriet Miers was nominated to the Supreme Court. It went so poorly, and she was clearly so unqualified.
You do realize, David the Pakman, that the president does have the power for recess appointments. right? That these recess appointments can be up there for at least 2 years. We're going to go into that a little bit in the video, just to give David the Pac-Man a civics lesson. This is what I keep telling you folks that keep listening to this smug prick, as David Rubin so artfully put. Way to go, David Rubin. I applaud you, David. Not you, David the Pac-Man. David Rubin. I applaud him. See, these are the lies that the people, these progressives, these people on the left keep trying to tell you because they think that you're too dumb, you're too stupid, you're not going to be able to figure it out. But what David doesn't understand is because he doesn't understand civics, has no idea about presidential powers. Just ask him. Put your comments when you're watching David's videos in the comment section and ask David and say, hey, David, how come you didn't tell us that President Trump is allowed recess appointments? It's the legal way within the governmental framework that allows the president to bypass when Congress or the Senate is out of session. And it allows him to put picks that he wants of the people that he wants to have surround him, that he knows that may have a difficult time in confirmation. And he utilizes the law to get the people that he wants in the positions that he wants, in the places that he wants, to advise him, to be his advisors. But David the Pac-Man conveniently forgot to tell you about this. We'll get into that. Let's see what else David the Pac-Man forgets to tell us.
That she ended up withdrawing, and then they put in somebody even worse. So there is a fear that if the Democrats and maybe some Republicans in the Senate are successful at blocking this nomination, that it will lead to whoever Trump really wants as AG, and it will be somebody less incompetent but far more weaponized. Or is this really who Trump wants and maybe we can get him blocked? We don't know. But if you're looking for early signs as to whether Republicans will be falling in line, yes, sir, Mr. Trump, let's take a look at that next.
What else would David the Pac-Man feel? So as if when Barack Obama wanted his picks, they weren't supposed to fall in line, Mr. Obama? When Joe Biden wanted his picks, they weren't supposed to fall in line for Mr. President Biden, sir? I mean, as if everybody else didn't really fall in line for other presidential picks. But for Donald Trump, if they do happen to fall in line, that's a bad thing. Now for that civics course for David the Pac-Man. Watch this, folks. And I certainly would like David Pac-Man to sort of review basic, let's just say, American Government 101. So this is what we call recess appointments, and I hope this explains what David the Pac-Man left out.
President-elect Trump has been pressuring GOP senators to allow executive and judicial branch appointments without Senate approval. This would come through recess appointments. This is something that is actually prescribed in the Constitution. How would that actually work, and why would Trump want to do this if he does have this Republican majority in the Senate?
Yeah, so typically recess appointments are used for candidates who have a hard time getting confirmed by the full Senate. If they've been, toiling a while, waiting for confirmation, presidents might look to recess appointments. Sort of a notable case is John Bolton, who was Trump's national security advisor. He was actually a recess appointment by then President George W. Bush to serve as ambassador to the United Nations. So, we've seen it happen. We've seen it been used before by former presidents, but certainly I think it's interesting that Trump is coming out before the new Congress is even seated, even when he knows he's going to have this Senate GOP majority, to kind of come out and say that they must be willing to do recess appointments. Maybe a sign that he's looking, A, to get his nominees really confirmed really quickly, so no sort of waiting for them to toil in obscurity. But at the same time, maybe a sign that he's considering nominating some folks who maybe there's going to be some reluctance among Senate Republicans and maybe wouldn't be able to get those 50 necessary votes in a full Senate.
One thing I'd like to add is that reporter there did talk about John Bolton, and John Bolton has got, I mean, he has to have a lot of balls to basically talk about it. And you'll see out on all of the mainstream media outlets, John Bolton is out there slamming the picks of Donald Trump, basically saying there is no way that Matt Gaetz can, get appointed, get approved. No way. He doesn't have the bona fides to do this. He's just not qualified. Tulsi Gabbard, how in the world could she be selected for DNI? How is that possible? She's a Russian plant. She can't be afforded access to all of our nation's secrets. Really? John Bolton was a recess appointment himself. Or does he forget? That guy had enemies on both sides. So he has, talking out of both sides of his arse. But this, folks, is what we're talking about. There was a fight within the Senate Republicans. They were all cowards, the establishment, because they all give their allegiance, or most of them give their allegiance to Mitchell, Senator Mitchell from Kentucky. And we all wanted to have the leader of the Senate to be Rick Scott from Florida. But instead, secret vote gave it to Thune. Not really MAGA, but has sort of come around the last couple of years, but I wouldn't fully trust him at all. But what Trump and his team must have done was to tell Thune and say, listen, guy, I've got the mandate. Okay, you guys did that bullshit with that cowardly vote in the dark, in secrecy. Okay, fine. But guess what? You're going to back my people. You're going to make sure that the Senate falls in line, or there's going to be absolute goddamn hell to pay. Because I've got the mandate, and I will get my people in one way or the other. And if it has to go, we can do it the hard way or the easy way. And if I have to do recess appointments, I'll do them. And this is what we're talking about. He's urged the next leader of the Senate Republicans to support him in making recess appointments as three prominent members are battling it out. It was he talked about with Mitch McConnell, who is not MAGA. He is an absolute establishment, neocon, establishment, I wouldn't even say conservative, Republican. And he said any Republican senator seeking the coveted leadership position must agree to recess appointments, without which we will not able to get people confirmed in a timely manner, which is what Trump said. Cornyn, Thune, Rick Scott vying for the role. We already told you what happens. So this is actually, for a lot of people, they might not know, but I thought David, the Pakman, should know that Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2 gives the president powers to appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States. But they have to do so by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. Now, the following clause, Article 2, Section 2, Clause 3, though, not Clause 2, Clause 3, however, grants presidents the ability to make temporary appointments when the Senate is not in session, according to an annotation of the Constitution. These appointments can stay in place for up to 2 years. If Trump can go ahead with recess appointments, it will let the president-elect speedily push through nominees and appointments without needing the upper chamber's approval. And they go on to say, for the Obama administration, Senate leaders have agreed not to allow the upper chamber to be out of recess for more than a few days without having ceremonial pro forma sessions blocking recess appointments from presidents on both sides of the aisle. So this is what they started back then. But what this is going to allow right now is for Donald Trump to get his people in there. And even if they're in there for at least 2 years, folks, the pressure will be on the side of Trump and the people of the United States and his mandate. And there will be overwhelming pressure from that side. Because if the other side, the Senate, tries to take away those appointments after the recess appointments have been taken, Folks, that's going to be very, very difficult to do so. It's going to be really, really hard. So I applaud David the Pakman for putting forth his point of view. Lies of omission. Didn't tell you the whole story, but we have here. So anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I've been your humble host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow us. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Take a look at our other 4 links to other 4 videos, plus thousands of other videos that we have, folks, on all kinds of things. My final thought is always, when you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, y'all take care and stay safe.